In today's game, most players rise to fame through flashy skills, big goals, or dramatic moments. But some stars shine in a different way. They don't grab headlines every week. They don't always make the highlights. Instead, they control the game from the shadows, making everything around them better, smarter, and more fluid. Vitinha is one of those rare players. At first glance, he might not stand out. He's not the biggest, the fastest, or the most explosive. But watch him closely, and you'll see something special. A player who understands space, rhythm, and timing better than almost anyone. In a team full of superstars, Vitinha plays a different role. He's the glue, the brain, the one who keeps things ticking. This video takes a deep look at Vitinha's rise to the top at Paris Saint-Germain, his growing importance for Portugal, and how his game reminds fans of Deco, one of the greatest midfielders in Portuguese history. And after PSG's historic Champions League win and Portugal's run to the Nations League final, it's time we give Vitinha the credit he truly deserves. Vitinha's journey began in the FC Porto Academy, where he was always known for his technique and intelligence. But like many creative midfielders, it took him time to find his place in modern football. A brief loan to Wolves in the Premier League didn't work out, and some doubted whether he could reach the top level. But PSG saw something others didn't. When they signed him in 2022, it raised eyebrows. Was this young Portuguese midfielder really ready to play alongside stars like Neymar, Messi, and Mbappé? It turns out he was more than ready. Under Luis Enrique, Vitinha has become one of PSG's most important players. While others bring the flair, he brings the balance. His calmness under pressure, quick passing, and ability to read the game make him the engine of the team. He doesn't score many goals. He doesn't rack up flashy assists. But when Vitinha plays, PSG looks more organized, more fluid, and more in control. That was especially true during their incredible run to the 2025 Champions League title. In the 2025 final against Inter Milan, all eyes were on Doué Dembélé and Kvaratskhelia. But if you ask the coaches who really controlled the game, they'd point to Vitinha. He didn't just complete the most passes in the match, he set the pace. When PSG needed to slow things down, he took the ball and calmed everything. When they needed to move quickly, he knew exactly where to play it next. More importantly, he helped PSG avoid the chaos that often haunted them in big matches. In previous seasons, PSG often looked like a team of individuals. But in the final, they looked like a unit, and Vitinha was at the heart of that. It wasn't a loud performance. It wasn't dramatic. But it was essential. Without him, the midfield would have been overrun. With him, PSG finally lifted the trophy they had chased for over a decade. Vitinha's influence isn't just growing at club level. He's also becoming a key figure for Portugal, especially as the national team starts a new chapter. For years, Portugal relied heavily on Cristiano Ronaldo. The strategy was often simple: get the ball to Ronaldo and hope for a goal. But under coach Roberto Martinez, the team has started to evolve. They want to play more as a collective, control possession, and build attacks patiently. That style suits Vitinha perfectly. In the Nations League semi-final against Germany, he came off the bench and completely changed the rhythm of the game. Portugal had looked disjointed and predictable before he entered. But with Vitinha in midfield, they suddenly had direction. He connected passes, helped beat the German press, and gave freedom to players like Pedro Neto and Bernardo Silva to move forward. He didn't score or assist, but his fingerprints were all over the comeback win. And he brought Portugal to victory over Germany after 40 years. For the first time since the peak years of Deco and Rui Costa, Portugal has a midfielder who controls matches with his mind as much as with his feet. Vitinha's style has naturally drawn comparisons to Deco, the legendary playmaker who helped Portugal reach the Euro 2004 final and win the Champions League with Porto and Barcelona. Both players share a few key traits. Neither is particularly flashy, but both have a deep understanding of the game. They're always 2 steps ahead, always thinking about space, movement, and timing. Both play with a kind of calm intensity, ever rushed, never flustered, always in control. But while Deco operated in a slightly slower era, Vitinha has to deal with a faster, more physical, and more pressing-heavy game. That makes his calmness under pressure even more impressive. He doesn't just survive the press, he often turns it into an opportunity. You can see it in the small moments. The quick turn to escape a marker, the perfect weight on a pass, the subtle body movement to draw a defender away. These are the things that don't show up on the stat sheet, but they win games. In many ways, Vitinha is a modern Deco, a version built for today's game, smarter, quicker, and just as elegant. Why is he not prominent? One of the reasons Vitinha is still underrated is because he doesn't shine in basic stats. He's not a top scorer or assist leader, but those numbers miss the full picture. What he brings is control. When he's on the pitch, his team plays better. He helps teammates find space, keeps the ball moving, and stops counterattacks before they start. He wins the ball without needing to dive into tackles. He guides the tempo of the match like a conductor with an orchestra. Modern football is full of physical monsters and technical wizards. But players like Vitinha are rare players who understand the entire field, who know where the danger is before it appears, and who always make the right choice. Coaches love these players, teammates trust them, and even if fans don't always notice, their presence is often the difference between winning and losing. At 25 years old, Vitinha is just entering his prime. He's already won Ligue 1, the Coupe de France, and now the Champions League. And with Portugal, he's part of a generation that includes Bernardo Silva, Ruben Dias. But unlike some of those bigger names, Vitinha doesn't need the spotlight to shine. He lets his football do the talking, and that might be his biggest strength. Looking ahead, he could be the one to lead Portugal into a new era where success comes not from individual brilliance alone, but from smart, balanced team play. In a game that often favors chaos, Vitinha brings clarity. It's easy to overlook Vitinha. He doesn't have the speed of Mbappe or the power of Holland. He won't make headlines with bicycle kicks or 30-yard screamers. But make no mistake, he's one of the most important midfielders in European football today. He's the kind of player who makes everyone around him better. The one who holds the team together. The one who doesn't need the spotlight because he understands the game better than most. Vitinha is not just a promising talent anymore. He's a leader, a thinker, and maybe the start of a new generation of quiet superstars. In the end, he might not become a household name like Ronaldo, but if you love football, the real, thoughtful, beautiful side of it, you'll know just how good he is. And one day, we might look back and say, he wasn't the next Deco, he was the first Vitinha. That brings us to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Really helps us keep creating more content like this. Thanks so much for watching.